I just wanted to make a video talking about the late great Sir Patrick Moore. This is a picture of an opening video shot of the BBC coverage of Apollo 8. Now, Sir Patrick Moore was a famous astrologer, and he also played the xylophone to a good level and was seen numerous occasions playing on the BBC, various shows. So he was a true celebrity in the sense of the word. And what's unique about Sir Patrick Moore, which I'd forgotten over the years, was that he recognised independent thinkers, what we perhaps would call today critical thinkers, or people with critical thoughts of their own. And he recognised that. Now, I don't go on to say that this guy believed in anything. He believed in the astrology that he studied, and he presented it out on his famous show, The Sky at Night. And that's what he was into. But I think that he knew more than what he was letting on, because he was very open and had his own way of independently thinking, and he actually produced programs. One of the most poignant ones for me was Mr. Bradbury's Universe, and he wrote a book called Can You Speak Venusian, and I've got a link to that book in the description, and it's a worthwhile read because chapter 2 discusses the flat earth and people he'd actually talked to and other independent thinkers, and as he goes on throughout the book. But I want to play this video to start with. You can see James Burke here, who was another BBC presenter who actually had science programs. But this is them discussing with Sir Robert Lovell the Apollo 8 mission.
Yes. Sir Bernard, could we ask just how accurate is your telescope? Can you lock on presumably to the signal, so therefore because of a time lag, do you then lock on to a space slightly behind the spacecraft?
Yeah, well, 1¼ seconds different, which is the time which the radio waves take to come from the moon to the telescope.
Yes.
So he says 1¼ seconds for the radio waves to come back. So there's a ¼ second delay. Now remember, that should be each way. ¼ second up, ¼ second, 1¼ second back. So that would equate to 2½ seconds. Now, light travels at 186,000 miles an hour. You multiply that by 1.25 would give you a distance of about 232,000 miles. So he's matching that time. He's correcting James Burke from 1¾ back to 1¼ which fits in with the model.
Of course, as far as the accuracy is concerned, none of the telescopes in this tracking network have a narrow enough beam to get the precise position of the spacecraft. Nearly the whole of this data is got from measuring the shift, the Doppler change in the frequency of the signals, and from that one can deduce the velocity and the acceleration of the spacecraft.
Yes. The Doppler effect is when one hears a train whistle, for example,
Exactly.
approaching, getting higher and then lower.
Yes, yes.
And if you know how low it is, you know how far away it's gone, or how far away it has to come.
This is a standard technique used in all these radio observations of deep space probes.
And your 1¾ second lag is at their speed of, say, 3,700 miles an hour is quite a few miles.
Well, yes, as 1¼ seconds actually.
1¼ seconds.
Corrected.
Of course, I think one of the rather amazing thing about this entire operation is that so much that is going on at this very moment is entirely new. All these experiments are new, they haven't been done before, and so far there have been no hitches at all, and this, I think, is a most tremendous triumph for American technology.
Yes, it's never been done before. He's got nothing to compare it against. It's a wonderful example, so he's open-minded.
I was amazed to hear from Houston this morning that after months of preparation, they are in fact something like 7 seconds behind schedule, after several months of preparation.
Well, one thing I think is certain here, that if they hadn't been pretty sure of their ground, they wouldn't have done it. Because I don't myself believe in all this talk we've heard over the years that there's a kind of space race on and both America and Russia are doing things before they're ready to and risking the lives of astronauts. This, quite frankly, I don't believe. I don't believe that either America or Russia will take on this kind of experiment until they are so confident of success that it really is justified.
And would you care to comment on that, Sir Bernard?
I am, like Mr. Boyer, I'm tremendously impressed by this engineering feat, and I think it's altogether remarkable. It does inspire complete confidence in the success of this mission.
Well,
I also feel the first time ever that there is a real chance.
So I want to just bring it on because he does. James Burke asks him a question later on about the funding. Let's just put it to here. Okay, let's have a look.
Project in that this television transmission to Earth is nothing really more than a sort of public relations venture in order to keep NASA in the news and keep it getting its funds.
Well, I think that's taking a rather poor view of the situation.
Yes.
I think I
think he just hit the nail on the head there.
The great thing about the Apollo flight is the great adventure of the human spirit here, and I think that man on Earth should be sharing what's happening as all part of this great project.
No, I'm not trying to debunk this. I know it's all up in the air at the moment. Proving that things are a hoax.
If it were, we wouldn't be in a job.
The extraordinary thing, Mr. Burke, I've been hearing the astronauts 230,000 miles away with perfect clarity. It's amazing how what difficulty I'm having in hearing you, only 180 miles away.
Yes, we've had the same problem. I wonder if we could just go over and listen for a moment to some of that transmission going on now from Houston. But they're still on the other side.
They're still on the other side. They'll be coming back very shortly, though. And this time they certainly will be on schedule. There's no doubt about it.
There's no burn on the other side. There's no rocket fire.
So they are doing it.
I'm going to put up another video, part 3 of this coverage, which is on YouTube. So we have, again, this picture was supposed to be the picture from the spacecraft. But I'm going to pause it once it loads up, and I'm going to run through this quickly and just take you to this. See that there? Look at that. I mean, could that be a reflection inside from the window? Some anomaly there. But, you know, I'm not saying, oh, look at this, the Apollo 8 mission is false. I'm not really questioning that. I wanted to show this because, as I said, Patrick Moore. Yeah. So I want to bring up a document regarding Patrick Moore. So this document here is an excerpt from Can You Speak Venusian, and as I said, the link to the whole book is in the description. But this is from Patrick Moore. These are his words published in that book, and he talks about the gentle breeze in Chelsea where he lived, but nothing more. If the Earth was spinning round, as the conventional scientists claimed, there would be a howling gale all the time. So even Sir Patrick Moore, in his infinite wisdom, thought of other things as well. And I can scroll down through this. You can stop it at any time if you want to look at, but it's a really good read. He spoke to somebody called Ms. Misson and Madame Henriette. This is her drawing, the non-rotation of Earth according to Madame Henriette. So all these independent thinkers, as Sir Patrick Moore called them. And look at this, he's speaking as an ex-bomber command flyer during the war. He said, the Stone Age of aviation, bless him. I could just imagine him on a bomb run, looking out the window at the night sky, while everyone else was probably taking cover from flak. He probably had his head stuck out the window, looking at the stars. This is where he comes on to mention Mr. John Bradbury. But an interesting point in this chapter was on page 10 and 11. I'm not sure where it is now. But page 10 and 11 of the actual book, if you look at the link, he talks about people who are difficult and have their own agendas, and it's almost as if he's talking about shills and psyops, although he doesn't mention those terms. They're sort of modern terms compared to what we're looking at now, but he recognised that there were people with their own agendas. So, hats off to you, Mr. Patrick Moore. And he talks about Samuel Shenton. The IFES. Now this is a good read. The Questioner and the Flat Earther. These are the questions that come up time and time again, and it looks like they did even back in 1972 and before. Men have been in space and have seen the Earth as a globe. They have even produced photographs. The question, the response. Nobody's seen the Earth as a sphere. Doesn't explain the photographs. Fakes produced by reactionary scientists conceal the truth about the shape of the Earth. At this point, the questioner usually gives up and suggests a journey to the nearest hostelry. That is a colloquialism for pub in the English language. Polite way of saying pub. But yeah, you can stop this and read it as I said. Talks briefly about the IFES, who took over. There we are, Mr. Shenton. I like the fact that this chap, Mr. Shenton, was mentioned by Colonel Bullman, one of the Apollo 8 astronauts, because this chap was quite famous for it, for the flat Earth. Talk about the ice wall, the size of the sun, size of the moon. They went out in an egg-shaped orbit. And this here says it all, really, from Mr. Shenton's perspective. I guess we were also taken with the space program that came to the fore, and we believed everything they were telling us, except this guy and a few of his followers. And that's the Apollo path that Samuel Shenton thought they'd followed. It makes sense, doesn't it? And I liked his passing shot. Those who believe the world to be shaped like a pancake are amongst the most attractive of the really independent thinkers. So, I'm going to open up another file, if you bear with me, and it's about the lever. This was circa 1931, and he put up $5,000 for proving the Earth to be a globe. This chap here, he was the leader of a church group, and apparently he ran it with an iron fist. So his thoughts on it were this picture here. That's what he believed. The ice wall, central point, the sun and the moon. I don't believe anybody claimed the £5,000. A few tried to do so. So I'll just leave it there, so you can pause this again and read it at your leisure. He's got these 3 pictures, which explains here. I mean, this guy was way ahead of his time, really, in terms of discussing the flat Earth. And remember, these guys couldn't get into space. They only had their ground observations to do. Again, he mentions 27 to 30 miles in diameter and about 3,000 miles. Again, we all recognise this, the view of perspective, vanishing point. Stars set in the dome, the North Star, Dipper and Southern Cross. It's all stuff that we're debating nowadays. So yeah, it does, if you look through it, he does mention Professor Picard in his the German balloonist, which was around about 1931. So they're saying the same thing, but from different views. Theoretical path. Yeah. Again, as he says here, there have been several eclipses within historical times in which both sun and moon were visible. Hope I'm not going too fast and that you can pause it. We all recognise this. 4 angels. Need to look this guy up. He's talking about Sperry Gyroscope. Sperry Gyroscope was a big company. I believe they were in Plymouth, UK at one time as well. It mentions Ross as well. A 60,000 mile journey. But at least he writes here that Captain Gunnar Isaksson, Norwegian explorer, circumvented the Antarctic, and he said 14,000 miles. He circumnavigated something, possibly an island, but he didn't go around the rim. And it backs that up with something else. Well, we can back up Cook as well, can't we? And here he mentions, they say that bird. I think he's referencing Admiral Byrd, but in this day and age he was probably the explorer as we've seen, and not necessarily the Admiral Byrd. He became Admiral Byrd later on in life, so this is again circa 1931. Another good read, actually, this. Yeah, if the sun were that big and at that distance, there would be no change of seasons because the sun's rays would reach both hemispheres with equal volume regardless of its position, north or south, in relation to the equator. Fair enough. Oh, there's the Professor P card. Yeah. Just pretty much some of the same arguments that we're still all going through now, really, and we're going around in circles with this. But I take my hat off to these people because they never had any evidence of what was in space or above the Earth. It's probably why Matey went up in his balloon. So yeah. And that's it. So read this at your leisure, but if you get a chance, read Sir Patrick Moore's book, Can You Speak Venusian, for independent thinkers. Way to go, Mr. Moore. Brilliant stuff. Thank you. Bye.